This is a screencast for Lesson 10 in Stephen's C# 24-Hour Trainer. This lesson talked about building custom dialogues. In this try it, we're going to build this new comedian dialogue here, and then we're going to have the main program use it to build a list of comedians. So I've already built the main form. You can build this. It's simply a matter of putting a label, list box, and a couple of buttons on the form. Now let's build the dialogue. We'll go to the project menu, select Add Windows Form. I'll call this the new comedian dialogue. And it's a fairly simple dialogue. It has a label that says name, a text box where the user can enter the name. There's my text box. There it is. Get that all nice and lined up here. I'm going to anchor the text box so that it resizes with the form. I'm going to also call this the name text box. We'll anchor it to top, left, right, so when the form gets wider, the text box also gets wider. And then down in the lower right corner, we'll put a couple buttons, the OK and the cancel buttons. So this will be our OK button. Here's the cancel button. We'll give them good names. And anchor them both to the bottom right. Resize the form a little bit. Now to make this thing behave like a dialogue, I'm going to select the form and then set its accept button property to the OK button and its cancel button property to the cancel button. When I set the cancel button property, if I pick this button now and look down here, you can see that it automatically set its dialog result property to cancel. It did not do that for the OK button, however, because it assumes that you're going to do some validation on whatever value the user entered. If you set this value to OK, then when the user clicks the OK button, it'll automatically close the form and return the result OK. We're not going to do that. We're going to add a little bit of validation. So I'm going to go in here into the OK button's click event handler. I'm just going to check and see if that name has a length greater than 0. So if there's something in there. So I'm going to say if name textbox.text.length is less than 1, I'm going to complain to the user. So messagebox.show, please enter a name. If the length is greater than or equal to 1, I'm going to go ahead and let the user close the form. And to do that, I'm going to set the form's dialog result property. So I'm going to say this.dialog result equals OK. Now, as in previous examples, the system.windows.forms namespace is included here already, so I can get rid of that to make my code a little bit easier to read. So that's all we need for the dialog. We've got our OK button, does some validation. If validation succeeds, it closes the form. The cancel button has its dialog result property set to cancel, so it automatically closes the form with no code. All we need to do now is add code to the main form to use the dialog. So let me open that form. In the new comedian button here, I want to create an instance of the dialog. So that's not what I want. I want new comedian dialog. I'll call it DLG for short, equals new comedian dialog. Now, if you were doing a dialog kind of like the font selection and color selection dialogs, you would initialize it here, but assuming that we don't have a name that we want to fill the dialog with initially, we'll just display the dialog. So if dlg.showDialog equals OK, then we want to do something with the result. Now, I actually forgot one more step on the other dialog. Right now, the dialog's text box is private, so we can't see its value from here. I'm going to change that. Let's go over here to the dialog, find this text box, and I'm going to set its modifiers property to public. So now we can see it from inside this other form. It may be slightly better style to create a property on that form so that this form can set that form's property and then have that property put the value in and out of the text box. But we haven't gotten to properties yet, and frankly, I'm not sure how big a difference it is. Purists would argue that you should not allow another form to mess with this form's controls directly, the way we are here. But practically speaking, that's not the sort of thing you're going to do accidentally. You probably won't create a bug by doing it, erroneously. So we're fairly safe, particularly in this instance where it's a simple dialog and we're not really doing anything complicated to that control. All right, so we've got our dialog, we displayed it, the user clicked OK. We want to take the result and add it to the list box. So we're going to say comedian listbox.items.add, and then what do we want to add? Well, it's the dialogs name text box.text. So we go to the dialog, we get the name text box, we take its text property, so that's whatever the user entered, and we add it to this list box. So let's try that much and see if it works. So for name, I'm just going to say Bob. Press OK. Bob appears in there. New comedian, Sally. If I press the enter key, that should trigger whatever the accept button is for the form. That works. I'm going to type in some gibberish and press escape. That fired the cancel button. Let's try typing in some more gibberish. Press the cancel button with the mouse. That works. So everything is working pretty well here. We haven't hooked up the delete comedian button yet. Let's do that next. That's pretty easy. I want to remove an item from the comedian list box, so I say comedian listbox.items.remove. And then now I need to know which item am I going to remove. I want to remove whatever item is currently selected in the list box. So that would be comedian listbox.selected item. That's all there is to it. Let's run the program and see if that works. We'll add a comedian. We'll add Alice this time. Oh, one thing I didn't check before is validation. If I leave this blank and click OK, it says please enter a name, and the dialog does not close. So let's add another one. Let's add Bob again. Click on Alice and click delete comedian, and Alice disappears. If I click delete comedian again, nothing happens. That's kind of nice. This selected item down here is null. There isn't a selected item currently. And fortunately, the listbox items.remove method is smart enough to know that if this value you're passing is null, don't crash the program, just don't do anything.